Alright everybody, how we doing today? Hopefully better than me, because I was not ready for today. Some of the stories from today's news are a little strange. Some are controversial, but mostly just strange. The first strange story from today comes to us from Reuters, and it says, United Kingdom votes to decide the fate of Brexit again. Can these people just ever make up their damn minds about anything? But voters go to the polls on Thursday in an election that will pave the way for Brexit under Prime Minister Boris Johnson, or propel Britain towards another referendum that could ultimately reverse the decision to leave the European Union. Which is probably what the anti-Brexiteers always wanted in the first place. Nonetheless, after failing to deliver Brexit by an October 31st deadline, Johnson called the December 12th election to break what he cast as political paralysis that had thwarted Britain's departure and sapped confidence in the economy. The face of the Leave campaign in the 2016 referendum, 55-year-old Johnson fought the election under the slogan of Get Brexit Done, promising to end the deadlock and spend more on health, education, and the police. His main opponent, Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn, 70, promised higher public spending, nationalisation of key services taxes on the wealthy, and another referendum on Brexit. All major opinion polls suggest Johnson will win, though pollsters got the 2016 referendum wrong, and their models predict outcomes ranging from a hung parliament to the biggest conservative landslide since the era of Margaret Thatcher. We could have a conservative majority government which will get Brexit done and unleash Britain's potential, Johnson told campaigners. This election is our chance to end the gridlock, but the result is on a knife edge. Corbyn said the Conservatives were the party of billionaires, while Labour represents the many. You can vote for despair and vote for the dishonesty of this government, or you can vote Labour and get a government that can bring hope to the future, he said. For those of you who are British, polls open at 7 o'clock and close at 2200 hours. So 700 hours, 2200 hours. Military time. Good choice on the clock, by the way. Makes more sense. It's more logical than the stupid 12-hour clock. But when an exit poll will give the first indications of the result, official results from the bulk of the United Kingdom's 650 different constituencies begin to come in from the 200-300 GMT to 500 GMT. Here's the thing about this that I want to mention about the Labour Party. This talking about how the Conservatives are the party of billionaires, while Labour represents the many. Conservatives, the party of billionaires. So what? You do realize that in a capitalist society you need billionaires in order to make investments, right? Otherwise you'd have no GDP. Billionaires are needed to make the economy grow. If you own a toaster and a microwave, guess what? Those were new technologies once upon a time. A billionaire invested in them, and that's what made the means of production easier, and therefore the product more affordable. So, you're saying that it's a party of billionaires is not a bad thing, but a good thing. See how that works? While you claim Labour represents the many, we all know deep down in our heart of hearts that there is no such thing as a politician that represents the many. The politician will always represent themselves, first and foremost. If history has taught us anything, it has taught us that. I'm sorry, but Jeremy Corbyn is a lying, manipulating sack of shit. Plain and simple. Don't even dream, don't even think about listening to him, people. Don't even. For any of my British viewers out there, just don't listen to him. He's lying to you, he's manipulating to you. That's what these left-wingers do. And that is not to say that right-wing politicians don't do lying and manipulating of their own. But it's more pervasive among left-wing politicians. Easily. Right-wingers usually try and avoid lying, but at the same time they don't necessarily tell the truth. Rather, they do what is known as a lie of omission, i.e., instead of actually saying anything, instead of telling the truth, telling a lie, you just say nothing at all. And of course, you can catch them on that in the middle of a debate. Bernie Sanders here in the United States tries to do that sometimes, and he ain't no right-winger, though. He adopted the tactic, however. Still, going forward, while Brexit framed the United Kingdom's first December election since 1923, the tortoise exit from the EU has variously fatigued, enthused, and enraged voters while eroding loyalties to the two major parties. tortoise exit. Or does that say tortuous? As in like torture. I still like tortoise. I'm going to call it a tortoise exit because it's slow and agonizing. But a majority would allow Johnson to lead the country out of the club it first joined in 1973. But Brexit would still be far from over. He faces the daunting task of negotiating a trade agreement with the EU in a self-imposed deadline of 11 months. After January 31st, Britain would enter a transition period during which it would negotiate a new relationship with the EU 27. He has pledged to do that by the end of 2020. Well, let's see if that actually pans through. He keeps making promises and then he keeps failing to deliver. One might think that Boris Johnson is a little overconfident in his abilities to get bills pushed past his opponents. Still, Brexit and Boris. Sterling markets are pricing in a Johnson win, but a 5-year flurry of 2 historic referendums on Scottish independence in 2014 and Brexit in 2016 and 2 national elections in 2015 and 2017 have delivered often unexpected results that ushered in political crisis. The election pitches 2 of the most unconventional British politicians of recent years against each other. Both have been repeatedly written off by opponents and both offer starkly different visions of the world's 5th largest economy. Johnson's pitch is Brexit, but he shrank from anything more radical in a heavily choreographed campaign. Corbyn pitched what he calls a radical transformation for a country long wedded to free market liberalism. Johnson, the New York-born former mayor of London, won the top job in July. His predecessor, Theresa May, resigned after failing to get parliamentary backing for her Brexit deal with the EU, and losing her party's majority in a snap election. Johnson defied critics by striking a new deal with the EU, but was unable to navigate the maze of a divided British Parliament, and was defeated by opponents whom he portrayed as traitors subverting the will of the people. The United Kingdom voted by 52% to 48% in 2016 to quit the EU, but Parliament has been deadlocked since May's failed bet on a 2017 snap election over how, when, and even whether to leave. Gee, I wonder if a snap election here in the United States could fix that Democratic majority in the fucking House of Reps. Because those guys, just like Trump said recently, history will not remember them fondly. They've been so busy going after him that they've barely gotten anything done. Sure, a bill or 2 has been passed, some changes have been made, but they've mostly just pursued Trump. Non-stop. They've been so busy going after him. This is worse than what happened with frickin' Richard Nixon. But still, I wonder if the same could work here. It certainly seemed to work in Britain. A snap election ruined a majority, and then Boris Johnson got some leeway. Some leeway. Still, missteps. Corbyn, once an opponent of the EU, who now says he would remain neutral if he was a prime minister, overseeing another referendum, was repeatedly grilled over his Brexit plans. He pledged to overthrow a rigged system, he said was run by billionaires and tax dodgers. Both made missteps during the campaign. Johnson, in one interview, refused to look at a picture of a sick 4-year-old boy forced to lie on the floor of a hospital and unexpectedly took the phone from a reporter and pocketed it. He later apologized. Corbyn, a veteran campaigner for Palestinian rights, repeatedly avoided apologizing for what some party members, lawmakers, and Jewish leaders say is his failure to tackle anti-Semitism from some elements within the party. He apologized eventually. Johnson's strategy was to launch Labour's so-called red wall of seats across the Brexit-supporting areas of the Midlands and Northern England, where he described his political opponents as the out-of-touch enemies of Brexit. "If I'm honest with you, there's no choice," said voter Andrew Davis from Kent in southern England. "I don't like any of the main candidates, so I'm struggling." So it's you guys too. You're in a situation where no one looks electable. I can relate, because we got a situation here in the States that is not so different, fundamentally speaking. Like, the only person in our system that's even remotely electable is Donald Trump. That very much has in common with Boris Johnson. You obviously can't trust Jeremy Corbyn. The guy's a snake. Is an absolute snake. You can kind of trust Boris Johnson. But I do believe quite firmly that Boris Johnson is a little overconfident in his ability to deliver on his promises. Something else we can relate to, because there's Donald Trump. He tried to deliver on his promises and people got in his way, making him look like a hypocrite. It's the same deal. But Johnson has more leeway. Easily, because he was able to get rid of a majority through a snap election. But will that actually be enough to get you guys his version of Brexit? Probably not. It's not going to be easy. You're not going to be able to do it. You guys are going to be doing this Brexit thing for... You know, there's this meme out there that says, in the year 2042, the Galactic Federation of Planets will come to Earth wanting Earth to join. But we won't be able to join because we'll still be waiting on all your asses trying to get your Brexit done in order to join the rest of the world in the Federation. In 2042. And I totally believe it. Your politicians are corrupt and they do not represent the will of your people. No more than any other government at this point. I'm seeing it more and more all the time. Governments across the world, everywhere. No politician represents the people. So don't you dare listen to them when they claim that they do. Because they obviously don't. And they never have. They represent themselves. Or sometimes their investors. Anyway, peace.